Welcome to the introduction to Hibernate. Here we will discuss Hibernate basics, Hibernate ORM features. We'll set up a project with Hibernate, look at annotations, and move to create, update, and delete operations. Let's start with the basics. The Hibernate framework was created by Gavin King in 2001. The latest version is 5.2.10. Let's start by discussing why we need Hibernate and why it was created. It is a framework that simplifies the development of Java application to interact with the database. Let's understand why we need it with the help of two scenarios. Let's consider a scenario where a user has a program with MySQL database connectivity. Now, if you look at the illustration here, the user needs to write MySQL specific code to create the database connection. Now, just in case the user shifts from a MySQL to an Oracle database, the user has to repeat the process of writing database connectivity code, which is Oracle specific. So the connectivity code is difficult to modify because it's in the source code, and we'll have to recompile the application every time we change the data storage mechanism. Hibernate hence converts database specific queries automatically based on a dialect provided, and it uses HQL or Hibernate query language, which is independent of the database. So it prevents the user from changing the code and queries to map to different data source once you change a data store, let's say from MySQL to Oracle. Let's consider a scenario of a user with various billing records. The user in the billing records data needs to be stored in a DBMS. For this, the user class has to be mapped to the user table, and the billing records has to be mapped to the billing records table. So this is the class that we will actually set up. When you create the class, the schema for the user and billing records classes will automatically be created for you. So this is the class representation with the data members, and this is the equivalent SQL statement that will be created to generate the respective tables. Now, what could be the possible problems with this? The association problem. We are talking about object relationship mismatch problems. In terms of the association, Java can use association by having another class variable as a member. In SQL, no standard concept is available to represent association. Navigating data, it is different in Java and SQL, and caused mismatching due to manual handling of object relational mismatch. Let's add two subclasses, credit card and debit card, which are subclasses of the billing record. Now, what could be the possible problems here? SQL does not support supertable and subtable relationship. Table is not a type, so it is difficult to create supertable subtable relationship, and writing SQL query for polymorphic relation is difficult. In user table, ID is the primary key. This is a foreign key for the billing record table. It is hence difficult to change the ID. We need to update not only the ID column in user but also the foreign key column in billing record. We also need to add surrogate key in user and billing record table. The surrogate key isn't presented to the user and is only used for identification of data inside the software system. User surrogate ID and account number ID are system generated values. It is difficult to decide whether these columns should be added to data model or not. Different persistent solutions have different strategies, and this can cause confusion. What is the solution? Hibernate provides an ORM or object relationship mapping which takes care of these issues. Let's look at ORM and its features. ORM refers to automated and transparent persistence of objects in a Java application to the tables in a relation database using metadata that describes the mapping between the objects and the database. So here, once we create a Java Pojo class or a plain old Java class in your code, and let's say we provide data members like ID and name, we will automatically be mapping this to a table in the database, which the Hibernate framework will generate automatically for us with the same set of columns and mapped to the class structure that we have. And hence we said object relationship mapper. So the object structure that you have will be mapped to the database table structure. The advantages, obviously, it can significantly reduce development time, less code, better performance, and you can support different database management systems by adopting this. By mapping logical business model and physical storage model, ORM implements domain model pattern. It navigates the object relationship transparency. ORM provides one way to translate the query to appropriate database syntax. It also provides concurrency support where multiple users can access the database at the same time. It provides a host of services that enable developers to focus on business logic. It also provides cache management to reduce load on database. Surrogate key identifier and other key features can be automated in the ORM. So the Java application will connect to the ORM API, which facilitates create, update, delete operations. The ORM engine will facilitate the creation of the mapping information for the Java class that you create here to actual SQL statements meant for the database, and the JDBC driver will connect the Java application finally to the database. So it is the ORM that is doing the mapping to your objects that you write in the Java application to tables that are actually updated and created in the database. Let's look at Hibernate as an ORM framework from a architectural, feature, persistence, and API perspective. As an object relational mapping framework, Hibernate is concerned with data persistence as it applies to relational databases via JDBC. DBMS specific details and mapping file details are specified in a file called hibernate.configuration.xml and mappingfile.xml. The Hibernate engine uses these files to generate DBMS specific syntax. So the Java application will have all the configuration for your Hibernate written in the cfg.xml file. You can also have a mapping file if you want to map table names to column names in the XML file, and finally we connect to the database management system. Hibernate ORM provides its own native API in addition to full JPA, which is the Java Persistence API. It maps POJOs of Java objects to relational databases. It provides a rich tool set. It has better performance for caching, fetching, and enhancing code performance, and it is also part of the JBoss community. This is where we can go and download the latest version of Hibernate. The JPA provides a standard persistent API as part of EJB 3.0 specification. It is supported by all major vendors of Java industry. Hibernate model implements Java persistent object relationship API, and the Hibernate persistence provider can be used in any environment of Java platform, be it the standard or the enterprise edition. So here is the Hibernate programming model. You create the hibernate.cfg.configuration object. You load the metadata information. You then create a session factory object. You then make a Hibernate API call on a session object. You close the session and you close the session factory. So the Java application will create the persistence object. The entire Hibernate framework consists of the session factory, a session, a transaction factory, and a connection provider. And the internal API which is used by Hibernate is the JTA, the JDBC, and the JNDI. Let's look at each of these components of the architecture in detail. The session object is created within the database layer in every DAO method or data access object method. It is known as the persistence object. It has three lifecycle states: the transient state, where an object is transient if it has just been instantiated using the new operator and it is not associated with a Hibernate session. It is in a persistent state if it has a representation in the database and an identifier value. It might have been saved or loaded, however, it is by definition in the scope of the session. Detached is an object that has been persistent but its session has been closed. The reference to the object is still valid, of course, and the detached instance might even be modified in this state. The Hibernate core APIs start with the configuration. Now you can see here the org.hibernate.cfg, which gives two services in the Hibernate application. It loads the mapping file and configuration file into memory and makes them available to Hibernate engine. It also acts as a factory to create the session factory. The session factory, which is part of org.hibernate.session factory. The Hibernate engine implements this session factory interface. It is one per DBMS, mostly one per application that you create. It is thread safe. It is not a singleton, which means it creates a session object. The session factory encapsulates second level cache, connection pool, meta information cache, and pool of the session. The Hibernate interface also contains the session. The Hibernate engine implements the session interface. Session object acts as a persistent manager. It is a lightweight object. It encapsulates connection and first level cache. Session object is not thread safe. In every DAO method, session object is created. It is used for CRTD operations. The Hibernate engine also implements the transaction interface. When database connection is created by Hibernate, connection associated with session is in auto commit disable mode. Whenever a CRUD operation is performed, the changes will not be reflected in the database unless connection is maintained in auto commit enabled mode. All the generator classes implement the identifier generator interface. This application will help the programmer and may create own generator classes by implementing this interface. Hibernate framework provides many built-in generator classes. You have assigned. The default value has to be explicitly aligned to persistent object before you persist it. Increment, it increments value by 1. It generates short, int or long identifiers. Native, it uses identity, sequence or hello depending on the database vendor. Sequence, it uses the sequence of the database. If there is no sequence defined, it creates a sequence automatically. For example, in the case of an Oracle database, it creates a sequence named Hibernate_sequence. It is used in high and low algorithms to generate the ID of type short, int and long. Finally, the identity, it is used in Sybase, MySQL, SQL Server DB2 and SQL to support the ID column. The returned ID is of type short, int or long. So it auto generates the ID which could be the primary key in your table. How do you set up a project with Hibernate? Step 1. You create a Java project. You add the required jars and libraries from the Hibernate downloads. You then add the JDBC driver or a specific jar file to connect to your respective data store. Create the Pojo class, save it in the SRC folder of your project. You then create the Hibernate configuration file which is similar to the web XML file, and you specify which dialect of SQL are you using depending on the databases listed here, MySQL, DB2, Oracle. You then create the hpm.xml file which is the mapping file, and finally you create the class that retrieves or stores the persistent object and saves it in the SRC folder, and then you go ahead and run the application. So first you download the latest version of Hibernate. You right click on the project, click on build path, click on add external jars, and you add all the required Hibernate jars that you downloaded. Then you download the MySQL connector, assuming you're connecting to a MySQL database or equivalently the driver for the Oracle database. You then create the Pojo class that needs to be persisted into the database in terms of its object. So here we have roll number and name. Then you create the Hibernate configuration XML file. Here you see the property mappings done. You see the connection URL to the database. You see the username, password. You see the driver name. You see the auto property set to create, which indicates every time you run the application, it will create the table. If the table exists, it will drop it and create a new table. And here is the mapping to the mapping file, which maps the column names to attributes that you have in the class. Step 5, you can actually see the mapping done. Name student, table, the ID and the name are being mapped. Then you create the configuration object by creating an object of standard service registry. You then call configure, you pass the XML config file. Then you create an object of metadata, call the build method, and finally an object of the session factory by calling the build method of the get session factory builder. You can use property names as create, update, create, drop to avoid creating the student table manually. So every time you have a change, and if you set it to update, automatically you will see that the record has been updated in the database without you having to manually write the SQL statement. And this is the SQL that will be generated in case you put the value as create here instead of update, which means the existing student table, if it is already there in the database, it will be dropped and a new student table will be created every time you execute the application. Let's talk about annotations in Hibernate. You have learned how Hibernate uses XML mapping file for the transformation of data from POJO to database tables and vice versa. Hibernate annotations is the newest way to define mappings without the use of XML file. You can use annotations in addition to or as a replacement of XML mapping metadata. So if you're using annotations, you do not need to create a separate XML mapper file which will map the values or the attributes inside your class to the fields in the database. So here you just need to specify @entity as an annotation on top of your class, @table as well, @ID if you're defining anything as a primary key, @column if you want to change the name of the column from a database perspective, and simply save this file and provide a mapping in the Hibernate CFG XML. That's all you need to do. So you save the effort of creating a separate XML file purely for doing a mapping of the class attributes to the column names in the database. So here you see we are creating a configuration.configure. Then we are configuring and loading that XML file and creating a metadata object and calling build on it, and finally instantiating the session factory.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
Let's talk about create, update, delete operations. The acronym CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. There are 4 basic operations that any data-driven application performs, which is create, read, update, delete. Now Hibernate supports these operations by means of a session interface. Now multiple persistence objects cannot be retrieved, and this is the limitation of using session methods. Multiple delete and update operations are not possible in parallel. The required criteria cannot be expressed to perform some complex CRUD operations. To overcome the above limitations, we have HQL, which is Hibernate Query Language, the Criteria API, and Native SQL, which is Structured Query Language. What is HQL? It gives query language provided by Hibernate. It is the same as SQL, but it doesn't depend on the table of the database. It uses classes. The Criteria API is one way of querying the database in Hibernate application. It can be used for DBML operations. Criteria API is an object-oriented after-native for HQL to read data from database, and it supports compile time checking for the query that we built, unlike HQL. Here is a create operation. We create a configuration object, a standard registry object. We then load the Hibernate configuration file. We then create a session factory, open a session object, begin a transaction, create a new student object, set the values as roll number and name, and save that into the session, call a commit on the transaction, and close. This will create the table in the database and insert the first record inside it. If you need to read the data, this block of code until the session factory remains common. Then you again open the session, begin a transaction, get that particular student class object by passing the primary key, and simply print the value. For an update operation, this remains constant. You then open the transaction. You then get that particular record of the student or the student object by passing the ID, and simply do an update. For a delete, process remains the same. Get the student details, call delete on the session. Let's look at a demo on how to work with Hibernate. The first thing we will need is, of course, to install the Hibernate API. So the Hibernate software is available, and you just need to go ahead and download it from the Hibernate website. You can Google for it and simply then go ahead and unzip it. Okay. So if I go to, this is the Hibernate folder that we've downloaded, and you just need to unzip it, and you will actually see all the files and the jars inside it that are already there. So this is the file that we need, and you have a set of jars that we will actually need. So these are the set of jars that we will need to import inside our application. So once you install the Hibernate API, you then need to just go and download and install any database of your choice. In this demo, I have installed MySQL. The installation document for MySQL and Hibernate has been provided to you in the LMS, so you can access it and complete the installation of MySQL and Hibernate in case you need support on that. And Eclipse, of course, will be our editor. And besides that, we will download the MySQL Workbench. So the MySQL Workbench installation document is also been provided, so you can go ahead and download it. And once you download the MySQL Workbench, you will see that the installation or the instance of MySQL is available to you. You just need to click on that. It says opening in the editor. Just ignore this, and that's about it. Okay, so that's all we need to do to connect to the MySQL instance. And once you get the MySQL Workbench installation done and the MySQL installation done, you simply start writing your SQL commands out here, which will start generating your database names. And then we will go ahead with configuring our Eclipse application to create a simple Java Pojo class, which will, via annotations, as we saw, we will map it to the particular database that we create here. Let's start with creating the new database. So we'll say create database, and let's say Hibernate demo. We'll execute this, and you can see the database has got successfully created. Let's come to our Eclipse now. Here we'll create a new project. We'll select Java project, the name Hibernate demo. Say new project, Java project. Oops. Java project. Next. Here, Hibernate demo. Next. We'll click on libraries, add external jars, and we will add our JDBC driver. So let's go to this is the Hibernate folder. So I'm moving to the Hibernate folder first. We'll go to our lib folder, and inside that required, and we will select all the files and open and say finish. Okay, so it would have added all the references, as you can see here. So the libraries, the correct references have been added. Now we'll need to also add the MySQL driver. So let's go to the web, open Firefox, and we'll just Google. Okay, and here let's say we want the MySQL Java connector or driver. That should take us to the MySQL website. Okay, and here you see the driver available. We'll pick the zip file, so we'll say download, start download, okay, and it has downloaded the driver. So I'm just going to pick it up and put it into my folder that says jars, and we'll just extract it here. Okay. Now the moment that is done, we'll come to our Eclipse. We'll again go to build path and configure, add external jars, go back, let me go to my jars folder, and okay, doesn't figure out, so let me check again. It is in this folder, so we'll go and go to the build path, configure, add external jars, give the path here, and pick up the MySQL connector, apply, and close. So that has been added. Now let's create a new package for our Pojo class, and we'll say com dot transfer object. We'll create a new class within it, and let's name it player, for example. Finish. Let me add data members. Start with a player ID. Let's add player name. Let's add team name. Let's add age. Okay, that's my constructor. Get rid of this. Let's add from the source the getters and setters. We'll also generate a toString. toString method, and save this. And let's also go to the source and generate a parameterized constructor. Now, time to add the annotations for entity framework. So we'll say @entity. We'll pick it from the Java x.persistence.entity package. Then the player class is going to be a table. So we'll add @table as another annotation. And we want the player ID to be a primary key. So we will add @ID above the player ID. Now let's browse to the Hibernate folder, and within it we will search for hibernate.cfg.xml, and you will see that there are a couple of CFG XML files that come up, and these are the ready-made configuration files that are there in the folder, so we could just pick one and use it. So I've just picked a file from that location. Okay, and I'm just going to use it. So I'm just copy pasted a CFG file after searching for it randomly. So I'm just selecting that, coming to Eclipse again, clicking on the SRC and just pasting. So here's the file that we pasted. So if you go to the file, the first thing that we have is a database connection setting where we provide the driver name, the URL, etc. Then next we have the connection pool setting to set the pool size. We have the SQL dialect depending on which database you're connecting to. We have the cache if you want to turn it on or off. This is the line that will spit out the SQL that Hibernate framework will automatically be creating for us. This will allow us to drop and create the table. It will create the table at the first run, and on every subsequent run it will modify and recreate the table. So it will drop the table and recreate it. Now you see a mapping class here. Here we will map it to com.to.player. Okay, so that's the change we have made. Then let's come to class, and this will be com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Let's come to the connection string jdbc:/mysql. Since we are connecting to a MySQL database, localhost, the port number for MySQL by default is 3306, and the table name we created, or the database name we created, was Hibernate demo. The username on installation I had provided as root, and the password was also root, so we'll save that. Next, the SQL dialect, we will give it as MySQL 5 dialect. We'll add one more value, name equal to current underscore session underscore context underscore class, and we'll set this to thread so that every session runs in a separate thread and it's thread safe. So we are pretty much done with the configuration of I'll just validate the, so this is Hibernate demo, and that's exactly the same thing that we will provide here. Now time to add a new package, so let's do that. com.control we'll add a new class and call it Hibernate main. Add a public static void main to this class. Have it ready. So that's going to be our entry point. First thing, we'll create the configuration So we have created the configuration first. Configuration equal to new equal to new configuration dot configure just get rid of this. Let's get this from Hibernate package, and then we will say configuration dot add annotated class, and our class name will be com.to dot player dot class. Then next we create standard service registry builder equal to new standard service registry builder dot apply settings and configuration dot get properties. We'll put this onto the next line. So this will go ahead and get us all the configuration that is available inside our configuration class that we specified. So the first step, we are creating an object of the configuration class. The second step, we are going ahead and creating an object of standard service registry builder. We are also adding our class that had annotations with it, and that class with the annotations is nothing but the player class. So this line of code will actually allow us to apply the settings of the configuration file that we have set up. Post that, we will create a session factory object equal to configuration dot build session factory, and we will pass the builder dot build method. Next, we start creating the session equal to factory dot open session. Let's add the Hibernate namespace for session. Then we create a transaction equal to session dot begin transaction. Then we create a player object equal to new player, and we pass some values. We import com.to and also the transaction package should be the Hibernate equivalent, so we'll get that one. We also need to give a fourth parameter here, which is the team name, so we'll specify that. Then we use the session object to save the player object. Post that, we say transaction dot commit so that it persists the transaction, and then we do a session dot close. Okay, so here we are setting up the configuration. We are then adding the annotated class, which is player. We are creating the builder object, loading all the configuration properties from the XML file we created, setting up the session factory, passing the builder to it, which is the configuration information. We are then opening a session, opening a transaction, creating a new record in terms of the object, and hence it's called object relationship mapper, because we just create a new object, use the session to save it, and commit the transaction, and it will automatically create a table with the right name and insert that record into the database. Okay, so now all we need to do is attempt to execute it. So we'll just check the SQL connector is referenced. We'll go to our Hibernate config file and we'll just validate. So we had set the dialect and it is trying to reach the trying to load the class, which is the information class, or rather the driver. So com.mysql.jdbc.driver So let's run a check on that. Save this. Let's change this and use MySQL dialect. Oops. Let's come back to the Hibernate. Okay. Executed the incorrect file, so let's run it again. We delete the additional file that got created, come back to the Hibernate file, attempt to run that, save all. So the update that we did to the code, firstly, we have just changed the driver alphabet D to uppercase, which is system defined and case specific. And the next change that we will have to do is we'll have to add the entire namespace to the SQL dialect class. So we will say org dot hibernate. So this is the package name dot dialect LECT dot MySQL 5 dialect. So we've said org dot hibernate dot dialect dot MySQL dialect. Okay, and MySQL 5 is the updated version of the SQL dialect class that will automatically convert and write the SQL statements to insert the data into the database and also create the updated table for me. Right, so these are the two changes that we have done, and the code here continues to remain the same. We have a player object that we are trying to store into the database. So we'll execute this and let's look at the output, whether it, okay, so you can see here now, because in the config file we had actually given this configuration which says show SQL true. It has actually generated the SQL statements in the background. So it says drop table if player exists, and that was because we gave the auto mode here to create. Then it creates the new table and you see the SQL that is returned, automatically written for us based on the structure or the attributes in the class, and then it has attempted to insert a new record of type player into the database. Okay, but has it actually happened and updated in the database? So we'll go to our SQL. Okay, here we will just validate whether the update has really happened. Has it created a table out here, and are we able to retrieve the data? So we'll say select star from hibernate demo dot player. Okay, and you see the data that we actually inserted has come up inside the database. Let's try with an additional record. Save this, come here, and let us add another player. Change the age value, and we will also so we've created a new player P2 and we are saving it into the database. and you see after we've executed, it drops the table, creates the new table, and it inserts the data into the table. Okay. What I've also done is I've just introduced a try catch block. So in case there are any errors where we have gone wrong, it would return the error messages to us, right? Else it's the code continues to remain the same with just the new record. So let's check in the database now. We'll execute this, and here you see the second record that we just inserted is available in the database. Now let's go back here. Let's comment the second record and the save statement as well. And let's modify the value of the first record from Amit to Virat. Now, when we execute this, let's see what happens. So you see it's dropped the table, created the table again, and then inserted our individual player record. So if we go to the database, you can see that it's now the updated value, but it has recreated the entire table, and hence the second record is gone. Let's now, if we need to preserve the records and just do an update to an individual record without updating the entire table, let's change this flag from create to update and save this. And now when we come back here, we will uncomment the second record and comment the first one since it's already there. So we'll comment this and uncomment the second player and execute. It's now generated a single insert command. Let's check in the database what has happened. So we had one record. You can see now it did not drop the table, it just updated it with the second record. Let's check what is that we'll need to do if we want to retrieve a record. So to retrieve a record, let's say player P equal to, we'll use the session object dot get player dot class. We want a object of type player returned to us, and let's say we want the first record, so we'll give the key as 10, and we'll simply print the details plus P. So we have a toString that we have overridden in the class, so that should do the job for us. Let's execute this, and there you see the player details are returned for the first player. Now let's say I want to write some code to probably update those player details. So we can say player dot set player name and change it to another player, and we'll say p dot set age. So we've set the name and the age. Let's execute this, and it says update player. So you see the statement, update statement being generated here. Let's check in the database. The current value is Virat for player ID 10. Let's update, and you can see it has changed moment I refresh. What if you want to delete a record? We said it's used for create, read, update, delete. We have done create, read, update. Let's try the delete. So here we'll simply use the session object dot delete, and we will pass P1, or rather P, which is the object that we have just retrieved. Now when we run this, delete from player where player ID is this, and you can see When I come here, let's refresh the table, and you can see the first record has got deleted. Now similarly, we have multiple annotations available. So let's assume that we want to auto increment the player ID every time a new player record is generated. So for that, we'll say source, we'll create a constructor with just player name, team name and age. So we've created a parameterized constructor. We do not need the ID to be passed. We want to auto generate it. And we'll say generated value strategy equal to, we'll use the enumeration generation type dot identity. Now this will auto generate the ID every time we try to insert a record. So let's come here and we will comment the delete code. Let's now add code to try and insert a record. So we'll add two player objects, P1 and P2. Give it 70 and we don't need these values now, so we'll get rid of it. So we just need the names. So we've just given the names there, and we'll say session.save P1 and session.save P2. Now we'll go back to here and we will say create, since we are recreating the table, since we have changed the column configuration, and we'll come to our Java code and execute it. Let's go now and refresh, and you can see the player ID 1 and 2 was auto incremented with and generated with the new values that we just added. Okay. Similarly, if we want, we can also update the column name. So let's say that for player name, we want to provide a different name for the column in the database. So we will say column name equal to name. And let's say we want a different name for the table as well. So here we'll say name equal to player underscore table. So we've changed the table name from the database perspective that we want created. And for the column, if you want to put a constraint where you do not want null values to be stored, you can say nullable equal to false. Now let's come back, save the application and execute. Let's come here and select from, instead of saying player, we'll say player underscore table, which is the new table, and you see the new table got generated, and you see the name, actually the player name was converted to name, and that is the setting that we had provided. So this shows us how to create, insert, read and update data using the ORM Hibernate, and how easy it is to provide annotations in the object class and automatically map the entity model to the database, create the table and insert records. So we learned that Hibernate converts database specific queries automatically based on dialect provided. It uses Hibernate query language, which is independent of database. As an ORM, it is concerned with data persistence as it applies to relational databases via JDBC. The Hibernate annotations is the newest way to define mappings without the use of XML file. You can use annotations in addition to or as a replacement to XML. And Hibernate supports root operations by means of session interface. That's what we saw. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next session.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.